Everybody pay attention to me, the Ross Report, J. Ross TV. Stories from behind the scenes, information you can use like a thinking machine.
My name is Al Carty and I love J. Ross TV.
What's up, y'all? This your boy J. Ross hanging out with my cat Al Carty. He in town hitting bass tonight with Rob Thomas. Y'all, they at the Peabody Opera House. But what you don't know, man, not Rob, but my boy Al, he played an MD for some of everybody. Man, his credits are just like a monster, man. So I feel it a privilege to talk to him so he can get a cat some insight on what he had to do to get to where he is now on the main stage. And Rob, if you could take that question right off, man, just kind of inform the younger cats on what to do, man, how to prepare.
I mean, really, it's just about keeping your ears open. You know, whatever kind of music it is that you want to, you know, pursue doing on a professional level, just keep studying and you keep listening, you know. And for me, I try my best to, you know, listen to everything that came before and pay attention to everything that's new. You know what I mean? I don't play into any ageist mentalities,
yeah.
You know, like the new stuff is whack or the old stuff is corny. You gotta keep your ears open. There's something you can learn from everything, and when you pay attention to the history, there's just so much musical knowledge that you gain just from like really taking the time to study any given genre, understand, okay, what the sound was from a specific place in the 50s and the 60s and then the 70s, the 80s, and so on and so forth.
Hey, do you think the young cats nowadays are getting that message, or they just YouTube stars?
The ones who want to will get the message.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've always been an admirer, you know, of musicians who are very diverse, you know, stylistically diverse. You know, the people like the Nathan Easts and the Ricky Lawsons and the Pino Palladinos, and, you know, the guys who were the session guys. They could turn around, do a jazz record, R&B record, and then a hip hop cat could have them on their record and do rock or Latin or whatever it is. And so it's, you know, why stay closed-minded? You know, I just like being open.
Yeah, once again, y'all, we in St. Louis. My boy Al Carty on bass tonight with Rob Thomas at the Peabody. Getting a little background ambient noise, y'all, is because they got air conditioning on the tour bus. A lot of
gotta
folks
stay cool. It's hot in the loop.
Hey, a lot of folks don't have air conditioning tour bus.
It's hot in the loop, boy.
Hey, Al, now growing up, man, when did you realize that you wanted to be a professional musician?
Probably around 11, 12 years old.
Oh, that early?
Yeah. That's when I knew I really wanted to do it. I didn't come from a very musical household, so I just did my best, tried to learn what I could, and managed to get into a performing arts high school. And, you know, I just did my best to learn. You know, if you seek out information, you'll find it.
Yeah. Hey, now would you prefer, had you grown up, would you went to, say, like Berkeley or Juilliard, or learning as you did, on the job training, so to speak?
Well, I went to school. I got my degree. I went to Purchase College. This is in Westchester County in New York. Yeah. About an hour north of the city. So, you know, I had, you know, incredible jazz teachers. You know, I was a jazz major. I studied with guys like John Faddis, Todd Coleman, you know, Charles Blenzik. A lot of these guys were my professors. Then I had access to, you know, the studios as well. So I tried to make my curriculum diverse, because even then I knew I wanted to do multiple things, not just play and not just play one style of music. So, you know, like I said, you study everything.
Now, even though you didn't have a musical family, what about the support system? You know,
once they got to the point where I think, number one, with my professors and people like that, kind of indicating that they felt that I had what it takes to make it.
Oh yeah.
You know, you know, they started to kind of shift their mentality. You know, sometimes it just takes someone who has valid experience, who they can have some trust in, you know, to kind of, you know, string them along a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Well, you've been behind the scenes and out front. Is there any kind of advice you can give cats on professionalism that you see nowadays that may be lacking?
I don't think it's really much different from what I've heard older guys tell me when I was coming up. You know, you want to be respectful to people and be professional. You know, you want to be timely, attentive, learn the material you're supposed to learn, give 110% every night on the stage or in the studio.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, if you got older cats around, you get on your case and, you know, listen to what they're getting on your case about. You know, it's just, you know, you can learn something from everybody.
Yeah.
You can learn something from any situation. Sometimes you watch people in other situations and you learn what not to do, whether it's the playing, whether it's their attitude, whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey, now, what's your mentality? Say like you playing bass tonight, but with Alicia Keys and other groups, you MD. Do you have to change your mindset, or is it just about the same?
The only mindset that I have to change is the fact that I'm not the guy in charge in that situation. So I let the other guy who does have that position, I respect his position the same way I would want my position respected. So, half this stuff is common sense.
Hey, but as an MD, you ever say, man, when you just sitting back playing bass and get some MD, be like, man, come on, man. You know?
I mean, well, if you pick the right guys, you shouldn't have to be in situations like that.
Yeah.
But then again, there are times you may be hired to, MD, and you may have people you have to work with that you weren't in charge of hiring.
Yeah.
So that's just like anybody else's professional situation. You have to manage that situation. You're basically a department manager.
You ever had to fire anybody?
No,
Straight up?
I didn't hire him, so I didn't fire him.
Hey, now, what about being on the road, man? What kind of pitfalls can cats be devoid of, man, so you get information? So just don't fall in this particular. I know girls and strip clubs and all that, right?
Ain't nothing new.
But it's cats.
And rock and roll always been around. It's been around before there was a rock and roll.
Yeah, but a lot of cats, man, they think it's some big fall and they coming up. They might be getting ready to be on their first tour. Anything you can tell them, man, just that might help. Even if they gonna go out there to hit the strip club or whatever, just don't spend all your money at the club, man. She don't love you.
Don't waste all your money. Don't waste all your money for sure. As a matter of fact, save some, because cats be living from check to check. So save some money.
Man, how can they avoid that, man? I mean, how do you set your career up, starting off young, to avoid living from check to check as you get older?
Well, one thing. Really, it's just doing all the right things. If you're doing all the right things,
like what? Come on, give us some examples, bro.
I mean, well, look, if you're doing things that make people want to hire you and make people want to work with you, then more people are going to call you for work, and the same people will continually call you for work. So if you're always working, half the battle is taken care of, because if you're working, you're gonna make some money. You just gotta be smart about it. Take the time and read Kipling or something. I don't know.
And also, you gotta
read a finance blog.
You also let them know that your boss will have to pay taxes. So figure that into your pay.
Y'all pay your taxes,
right? That's what I'm saying. A lot of cats think they get paid under the table all the time. You ain't got to pay taxes, but
well, business is business. You're a self-employed individual,
right?
Or maybe you have a corporation that you get paid for. But business is business.
Turn it up. Everybody pay attention to me, the Ross Report, J. Ross TV. Stories from behind the scene, information you can use like a thinking machine.